Today we are going to review what we should have learned in Adobe Photoshop during Digital Design 1, but may have forgotten as it could have been multiple semesters since you last worked with Photoshop. So when you open this image up on your screen, you should see that there are multiple layers, and I've labeled all of them for you. What I want you to do is to hide everything but the landscape. Make sure the landscape fills the page, you don't have any white space showing. And then we are going to move on to the dog. The dog is going to make sure you're actually on the dog layer and it's highlighted. What we want to do with the dog layer is we want to get rid of this patch of grass right here so that it looks like instead of a crosswalk here, we have an area of grass and the dog is there. So what I want you to do is try to remember what tools you could use to get rid of that chunk of grass. So we have 3 different lasso tools. I mean, obviously with the regular lasso, you could get really close to that dog and you're just clicking and holding with your mouse, and you can highlight a big area to get rid of and then just hit delete on your computer. Now to get rid of those dancing ants, remember Control D to deselect. Now, we still have this area right next to the dog. If you remember, under the lasso tool, you have that magnetic lasso tool. And if you click and let go, it will actually attach itself like a magnet to similarly colored areas. So you may have to click, like I'm clicking around his face. Oh, see how I got into his face? I can hit the backspace key and go back so that I don't take away his poor face. Oops, I did again. So you got to hit backspace. It would help too if I had zoomed in, but I was hurrying and didn't get a chance to do that. So I'll come back and do that. So now I can just loop back around near his tail, click on the point where I started. I've got the dancing ants again. I hit delete on my keyboard and I've gotten rid of most of that grass pretty quickly. So again, Control D to deselect. Now, as I mentioned, I should have zoomed in on this. Remember, underneath window on the top toolbar, all of your tools appear in alphabetical order. So if you open the navigator, you can zoom in and move around to see things closer. So see, I've got some areas I didn't quite hit right. And he's so furry that tracing that with the lasso tool isn't going to look believable anyway. So you could do the magic wand, which usually looks like object selection. So you have to click and hold and get the magic wand. So I could do that and it'll get some little pieces for me, but I could also just take my eraser. So if you go to your eraser tool and then come up to the top toolbar, remember you can change the size of your eraser, the type of eraser. I'm going to go soft, and you can zoom in and kind of eat away at that green. Notice how I'm kind of wiggling in and out. That'll make it look more like fur because I'm not cutting it straight, because we want this to be believable. We don't want people to know that we've used Photoshop to combine these 2 pictures. All right, so I'm just real quick cleaning this up so I can show you the next step. And you can bounce back and forth and get skinnier brushes. Remember, from up here, you can even go and get completely different types of brushes. It's just if you want a different brush, like say I want this one, you have to hold down on Control Alt on the keyboard before you click on it in order for it to leave you in eraser mode. Otherwise, it will push you to the brush. So just remember, if you want a specialty brush, you have to hold down Control Alt to get it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my top left move tool. I'm going to move him down here. I'm going to drag on this box, make him a little bit bigger. Now, I need to get rid of some of this grass over here, don't I? So that it looks a little bit more believable. But I kind of want to be able to see what it looks like behind it. So I'm on my layers panel on the right, and I can make it see-through so I can see that curb and know where I need to cut that grass off. So now I can zoom back in, and I'm going to go back to my lasso tool I could have used the polygonal lasso because it likes to go straight, but I'm just hustling through this tutorial for you guys. So I'm just going to freehand it real fast, and I'm going to hit delete. And then again, Control D to deselect. I'm going to come back to my layers panel on my dog, and I'm going to make it 100% again. So now that's starting to look pretty believable. I've got some green and some things I need to go and clean up. Like I probably need to get rid of some here. And you can go around and fine tune this as you go. I just want to get enough of this out of the way that I can show you the next step. So you guys need to do a better job of making this believable than I did, but I want to hurry on before I run out of my free tutorial. Now we have an apple here. It's underneath the dog right now, and I want it above it. So I'm going to click and hold on this layer. You can see it's highlighted, and I'm going to put it over the dog. And then I want to get rid of the white space. So I'm going to use my magic wand, click on the white space, hit delete on my keyboard, and then Control D to deselect. Now I'm going to need 2 of these apples. I'm going to put one in its mouth in place of the dirty tennis ball, but I'm also going to put one in this girl's hand in a little bit. So I need 2 apples. So remember, to copy a layer on your keyboard, you select Control J, like jump, Control J. And now I have apple, apple copy. So now I have 2 of those. Hide her again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on the dog. I'm going to grab my apple, and I'm going to shrink this. I can go Control T to transform, and I can shrink this down. I can also right click and rotate it. Maybe I want the stem coming out. Ooh. Coming out this way from his mouth. Maybe I still need it a little bit smaller, so I can right click, change my scale again. And I can get it to cover over that pretty well. Now, to make this believable, his nose and his teeth need to go over that apple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my dog layer, and I'm going to take my lasso tool, and I'm going to trace his mouth and his nose. I'm basically getting everything but this tennis ball. All right. So I'm on the dog layer. I'm going to edit, copy, edit, paste special, paste in place. So this is the mouth of the dog. See? Slide that over. Mouth of the dog. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unhide my apple. I'm going to drag the dog's mouth over it. Now, see how it looks like he's biting into that apple? I can double click here and write dog mouth, enter, so that I've got that labeled and I can remember what lives there. But that's pretty quick and easy and simple. All right, so now we have this tiny dancer, and I want to make it look like she's riding the dog like a pony. So I'm going to take my magic wand, click on the white, hit delete. I'm going to zoom in because it's all about the details. And I'm going to get rid of any extra white space that's there. And again, you can use your eraser, you can use your lasso tool. There's all kinds of options for doing this. Usually a combination of all works best. But again, I'm racing through this tutorial, so I've still got some white there. I would definitely take some points off myself for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my move tool, and I'm going to position her so it looks like she's riding the dog. Obviously, I don't want her to look like she's riding side saddle. I've got to get rid of this part of her leg. So I'm coming to my layers, and I'm going to make her transparent. And then I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm actually going to use my eraser and erase the part of her leg that I want to be behind the dog. So you could use the lasso tool. You could use magnetic lasso. you've got a lot of different options for how to do different things in Photoshop. I'm just showing you one way to do it. So now I think I've got her pretty good hidden right there. So now I'm gonna bring the opacity back. And now it looks like she's leaning over there. I could get rid of a little bit more of her leg if I wanted to. And again, just drop your opacity down and you can see what you want to add, what you want to get rid of. Now, I have this apple here. I'm gonna position it over her hand. See how it's going behind her? Remember your layer order. I'm gonna have to take that apple copy and pull it above the dancer. So now it's nestled on top of her hand. And for things like this that it gets really close, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to subtly move things. So this isn't perfect, but it's pretty close. So what I can do is I can come to my bottom layer, which is my landscape. I can hold down Shift on my keyboard, click on Apple Copy, and if I want to make a merged copy of these, I can go Control-Alt-E. So I'm holding down 3 keys, Control-Alt-E. I still have the originals in case I screw something up and want to come back to it, but now I have merged all these copies together. So what I can do now is I can go Filter, Filter Gallery. Let me zoom out here. And I can apply different filters to this to try to make it feel more cohesive or more like an illustration. Ooh, I kind of like that. And you remember, you can play with the different options until you get the effect you're looking for. You can also image adjustments, mess around with the brightness contrast, the vibrance. Maybe I do this and then I come back to my smudge tool. It's usually living underneath the blur tool. You have to click and hold and find it. But maybe I come and get my smudge tool and I start to soften those edges, make those dots disappear so that it looks more like I've painted this. There's a whole lot of things you can do at the end. Basically, with this assignment, I'm just wanting you to remember the tools, how when you click on different tools on the left, different options appear on the top, how you can open a variety of panels on the right from window. They're all in alphabetical order. You've got your filter gallery of options, and then image adjustments has a ton of options for how you can go in and edit colors and make them more profound or maybe darker if that's a direction you want to go. All right, so use this video as a guide to refresh your brain for how to use Photoshop. And when you have this completed, remember you have to get rid of your layers. So from the top toolbar, you will go Layer, Flatten Image. It's second from the bottom. That will flatten the image, and then you can File, Save As, and you will want to save as JPEG, and you will want to put your name either before or after the title of this. So I'm going to come to the end of it and put L. Woodcock. Always put your name and what you're turning in, and always put the name of the project. Don't put any weird characters like hashtags or plus signs, because that messes, or points. Never put in a dot. That messes things up, and sometimes you cannot open your project again. It will corrupt it. So again, no spaces in between, no special characters, just the title of the project and then your name at the end. All right, that's it. Good luck.